What is up? It's Jim Ellie with Reactive Training Systems, and today I want to answer a question that we got on the RTS Instagram account that is all about what to do if you get sick in the middle of a developmental block. This is actually a problem that we have to solve quite often as a staff at Reactive Training Systems. Many of the athletes that we're working with have high goals and aspirations, and they do not want to take any time off. They want to put as much effort as they can into the gym, and it really does suck when they get sick in the middle of a developmental block. Now that we're in the midst of the flu and cold season, it happens more often than we'd like to admit. And it's just one of those aspects and those variables in life that you have to be ready for and prepared for so that if they happen, you can reset and refocus. There are 4 to 5 options that you can take when you get sick in the middle of a developmental block. And these options are dependent on a few variables, but for the context of this video, we're going to assume that the developmental block that you cut short due to illness was a successful one, you enjoyed it, then you were building momentum with the expectation of having a really good payoff at the end of your planned developmental block. Option number 1 is to restart the developmental block, but the first week would act like an introductory week. What that means is that our stress level is going to be dialed back compared to a normal developmental block starting point. The reason is that in this case, a lifter probably doesn't want to do a washout because they're already detrained, they're already probably feeling relatively fresh, they have no muscle soreness, no fatigue, and they would probably rather start building momentum with their lifts than do a pivot and then start the developmental block. So what this will look like is you'll start your developmental block the same way you would have started it before you got sick. However, the first week, you're gonna take away about 1 set per exercise to allow you to actually recover from that first week. What usually happens after a week after training is that DOMS increases, your fatigue in general is higher, and you're probably not fully over that first week of sickness anyway. So just to make sure that we're able to give our body full recovery, but still put weight on the bar that feels like we're back into powerlifting, doing a developmental block with the first week being an introductory week with lower stress is going to be a solid option if you get sick in the middle of your developmental block. The second option is to run through the developmental block as if you never got sick. So if you peak in 6 weeks and you get sick on week number 3 and you're out for an entire week, then we can assume that we have 3 more weeks left of training. Forewarning though, this is an option that I would only do if a competition is coming up, meaning that they got sick in the middle and doing a pivot is definitely not an option because we only have, let's say, 2 weeks until the competition. We just need to run into the developmental block again as if you never got sick, but limiting our expectations on the top sets for that first week, and then hopefully we can really build some momentum with the added volume that is going to come along with that. Well, in this case, the 4th week of the developmental block, and assume that week 5 and 6, you'll start to really peak and enter a peak condition. And at that point, we're crossing our fingers. We must admit and acknowledge that getting sick is not ideal in the middle of a developmental block before a competition. But in this case, this might be the best approach. You definitely wouldn't want to restart the block if you have a competition coming up. You just want to start getting the wheels turning again and maximize the momentum we can build into the competition. Option 3 is to run a pivot block the week after you get sick. And this is an option that is probably the safest option. It's the option that allows you to build the most long-term momentum because you're really lowering injury risk. You're making sure the body is fully prepared before diving into another high-intensity, high specificity developmental block. You have a few options with the pivot block. You can do a pivot block where it's high intensity but very low stress, something like a single out of 6 on your competition work, and then maybe some tempo work on the back offsets, and then a few supplemental exercises for the squat, bench, and deadlift. Obviously, those exercises would be distributed throughout the week, but that's one approach that can work very well. And if you're thinking long-term, this is likely the best option, because then when you do get to the developmental block, you still don't have much fatigue, but your fitness is much better and you're much more prepared for the higher volumes, the higher stress load that a developmental block tends to come with. One key part of this strategy is that the developmental block that you do end up running would be identical to the intended developmental block that you wanted to run in the first place. If you got sick on week 3 and you really liked it and you're having a lot of fun with it and you want to get back to it, you want to do something very similar, then this option allows you to get back into that original developmental block, but with a little bit more longevity applied to the decision, meaning that you'll have the washout week or the pivot block and then dive right back into the originally intended developmental block. Option 4 is to run a pivot block the week after getting sick, then run an exploration block on that following week, meaning the developmental block that you design is going to be significantly different in strategy and structure, and it allows you to explore options that you haven't yet experimented with. This is what I would do, and a lot of the coaches on staff will do if the developmental block that we started with wasn't seemingly that beneficial for the lifter. And they might have liked it, but the strength gain wasn't really on par with what we were expecting. So we'll run a pivot block and then we'll run an exploration block to really get away from that initial strategy, but allow the momentum to start building again with new ideas and new implementation of the ideas that we have. That's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully that during the cold and flu season, you can really get over your illnesses and get back into training without feeling lost and hopeless, and you can really start getting your strength back on track with a lot more success and hit more PRs. If you like this video, please subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you want to be more involved in the videos that we make, follow us on Instagram, where we get a lot of the questions for the making of these videos. Thank you, and I'll talk to you in the next one.
Reactive Training Systems.